Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. This is an update to the Cleetus McFarland neighboring property video that I did where I actually flew from Phoenix all the way out to Tampa to speak against the development that's going on right next door to that racetrack. And no, it is not a clout chasing attempt that some people had maybe claimed in the comments. It was only a few, but I did see them. It was actually me being more concerned as a student of YouTube, a fellow creator, and understanding what the Freedom Factory brings to the phones of the youth of America, what that means for motorsports, power sports in general. And I was very much interested in making sure that this was covered as much as possible. So this video is a very significant update to the most recent January 12th meeting of the Planning Commission for Manatee County. And we will jump into the commentary that took place here at this most recent January 12th meeting. Now, it also makes sense that a lot of people do not go to these things because this took place 5 hours and 12 minutes into the meeting. That's why a lot of people don't show up to these. So, again, a month ago, for those of you who do not know, a month ago, that was when the meeting took place where the public commentary was against submitting this to the state. It also appears that the submission is still with the state, and you'll see that as we play through this. So I'm just going to go ahead, play through, and I'm going to cut this up because there's a lot of talking here. It's about 45 minutes. I will try to cut this down to like 10 to 15 minutes of what I consider to be highlights, but I will link it in the description down below. I do not want anybody to accuse me of taking anything out of context. I suggest you go and watch it yourself if you would like to kind of watch it front to back, but it is super boring.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission. Kyle Grimes, attorney with the law firm of Grimes Galvan.
I need to pause this real quick also and say in my last video, I put together like a little intro that I thought was pretty funny.
It's written in stone and cannot change under the zoning ordinance.
Unless you came back and amended
Unless you came back and amended it.
You would have to go through a
You'd have to go through all of this process. Yeah. But, that's why we're here today. It's the process. But
in no way, shape, or form do I have any disrespect. I am a kind of like old school guy where I feel, including in politics, that people who disagree should still be able to disagree publicly, but also respect each other professionally. But I take some shots in jest. There is no ill will professionally towards any of these people.
and I have been sworn. Here today on behalf of the applicant, LWR Communities, LLC, I want to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the concerns that came up in those last two hearings. The major concern was the project's proximity to the existing racecourse, racetrack, and drag strip. And I want to talk about some of the changes and clarifications that we've made to the project to address those concerns. So although our client has always known they were there and always planned to develop the property so that the two could coexist, after that last board hearing, we did we met with our client, we met with some of the future home builders that will come into this area, and we also met with the current owners of the racetrack and drag strip to talk about some, other alternative options and things that could not only ensure that these two uses could coexist, but really that, they may benefit each other in the long run. This is the northeast corner of the site, and the racetrack is just to the top of that screen. We're providing an oversized screening buffer there that will allow for a berm wall with a combined height of up to 25 plus feet. More importantly, what we did after talking with the racetrack owners and our clients is come up with an idea for this 140 acre site identified there on the screen as parcel C, to turn that into a use that is really can be compatible with that racetrack. And so what we have done is designate that as a race village. This area will be specifically designed and marketed towards buyers, owners, and tenants that not only really understand and appreciate the uses and operations at the racetrack, but that want to live in close proximity to it.
Now, this is huge because what I proposed in a site plan was very similar to this race village. The reason why this is important is because if there are people who own these units and have a ton of money invested in these units, and it's all part of the same HOA, they are going to have a voice on that HOA in terms of what they're doing with the track. So if the community starts to really push against the track, hours of operation, all those kinds of things, you're going to have people who are very vested in that track keeping its existence, close nearby their condos, their garages, whatever the case may be. Huge development. Still, I think that it's better to not have any development on that land. It's an ugly situation, so this might be the best case scenario for everybody going forward.
One of the major concerns was having, your more traditional single-family homes, close proximity to the course. We will have a large 80 to 100 foot wide buffer with a 25 plus foot berm wall combination in that northeast corner. Then we're going to have 140 acres of this race village. And I want to emphasize a little bit more about what uses will be in there, because what our client did was they went out, they looked at some other developments in the area, one of which was the the Motor Enclave up in Tampa.
So the Motor Enclave, this is exactly what I was talking about. This is their promo video of the Motor Enclave.
We have a total of about 6 garages that we keep our cars in. So this particular unit is 3,200 square feet. It's roughly 40 by 80. And we can put 16 cars in
without
here.
a lift. I love the whole feel of the entire garage.
So that's what they're proposing for this Racers Village.
The large berm wall separation, the race village, and then we'll also have this upland habitat preservation highlighted there that will be maintained. Lastly, in addition to these buffering provisions, we're proposing some stipulations for the deed restrictions to not only require the traditional notice to owners that are in your sales contracts and declarations that, hey, there's a adjacent track, but we're going a little step further. One, the future owners do recognize that there is these pre-existing operating racetrack and drag strip, that the race village is specifically designed for buyers, owners, and tenants that desire to be adjacent to those, and that the future owners recognize that these are pre-existing permitted uses, and that by purchasing a lot in the subdivision, each owner recognizes those rights and agrees not to object to those permitted uses going forward.
This is a big deal, the permitted uses situation, because this was a big concern, was that if you have it tied to these a contractual deal where somebody buys the house and they're agreeing that the track is there, the problem is what happens when they sell that house a second time. That contract changes, and now it's just a matter of transferring deed. So I think the fact that they're talking about how this language would live with the deed means that it's a forever thing. But it's nice to hear that they're talking about this stuff now, because it means that we were all heard in this public commentary forum. The voices were heard. I think there's still a long road in making sure that the execution of that is done appropriately, but it's good to see at least the legal representation talking this way. It's more important to see because now this is all public record. It's on record. They've said this stuff. It'll be very hard for them to go back on it should they decide that they want to go a different route. This is probably the biggest victory in and of this whole topic, is that there is an attorney on record for the developer talking about this stuff as if they need to respect the track's presence. And if anybody ever, even 20 years from now, wants to complain about the track and it being, close to these homes, they have on record that it was stated before a shovel was even put in the ground that was the intent of it. Be very hard, in my opinion, to make a statement in the future that this was not the intended use of the property, was being a race village built next to a racetrack. So
our client does not, they intend to see this racetrack and drag strip continue, be successful, but not only that, with some of the changes and clarifications we're making here, that the two could really work together. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Katie to touch on the...
Present to you our proposed...
Was that some sorcery there? How did that happen? I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know what that jump was, but they're up to no good if they just shapeshift like that?
The project is approximately 2,307 acres. We're rezoning from general agriculture to planned development
Actually just
residential.
goes through and kind of goes, to 4,500 residential units, 2,300 acres.
First of all, I think this is creative stuff. I read the comments, and there were a lot of positive comments about the racetrack. And I do think when we develop, we've got to look at the existing conditions. And I think this is super creative. I thought you were misspoke when you said 25 feet of wall, and I thought, I can't wait to see that. I'll drive out and look at it myself.
Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify, it'll be 25 feet of combination between berm and wall.
Yeah, I understand.
That's an important distinction. It's not a 25-foot wall. It's going to be berm plus wall equals 25 feet.
Call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? It passes unanimously.
So that's pretty much where it's at. It seems like it passed through the planning commission stage. I don't know what the rest of the stages are. There's typically many, many layers of going through these developments. I just wanted to share with you guys that it's definitely clear to me that the public commentary absolutely swayed the proposed development here that's going on next to the Freedom Factory. It looks like the public voices were heard, whether it was the actual physical voices that voiced opposition in person or the letters that were written to all of the board members. There was a lot of it, and it goes to show that it's very, very important that you speak your voice when you feel your voice needs to be heard. And that's what I'm proud that I was a part of that whole thing. And I thank everybody else who was as well, because I don't know if it would have been as successful if it wasn't such a big, big public outcry, obviously driven by Garrett and his massive reach. But everybody else who just came, onesie-twosies, myself, who made their voices heard, very, very important. So I'm happy. It still sucks to see this development going because I know there will be neighborhood complaints. I was out there myself to witness what this sounds like in person, and it's not quiet. So I'm sure they're going to have some issues to deal with going forward. But it is nice to see the developer, whether they were forced or willing, who knows, in terms of building out a racers village. It's important. So happy to see that we're at least heading in that direction, if in any direction. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to support the channel. I will see you guys next time.